we're going to get ready to get started. See anybody come in, Andrea? We're good, just the door. Thank you, everybody, for coming out this morning. It's been a while since we've been able to have our health fair in person. We're excited to be able to do that. I'd like to introduce to you Mary Presidius, our women's health nurse practitioner. Deb Rainey, she is one of our nurse practitioners here as well, and Andrea again. I know she's also recently become certified. And they're going to talk to you today about genetic testing. Yes.
Well, so this is really my favorite kind of group to talk to. We're small and intimate, and so ask questions. We're probably going to give you only a taste of the exciting world of hereditary cancer and risk assessment and genetic testing. So like Denise said, I know a lot of you, but I'm Mary Presidius. I'm a women's health nurse practitioner. And then we have to be really excited about our hospital and what it's providing to our community. So when I came here and I worked with Dr. Kavens, who's our breast specialist, I had a little bit of foundation with looking at women with breast cancer and seeing if they needed a blood test to see if they had a gene that made it more likely that that is why they got cancer. And the hospital supported me, and I went on and became an advanced practice nurse in genetics. And the beginning of my road was at City of Hope. And City of Hope is in California. And at the time that Debbie and I went, it was run by Dr. Weitzel. And Dr. Weitzel is actually involved in writing the guidelines that we follow. And so our small hospital has a connection to worldwide experts and the people who create the information and the data that we use to decide who should we look at more closely and how can we prevent cancer. And then the last thing that we just stepped into that, again, the hospital has really supported is lifestyle medicine. So if you have a family history, if you have a gene change, or if you're just an ordinary person who doesn't have a family history or a gene change, we now know that there's ways that you can live your life that can help to prevent cancer. So we're going to focus a little bit on all of those things, but our big topic today is genetic testing. And how do we know who needs to have a blood test to see if they carry a gene that could make it more likely that they could get breast cancer or colon cancer, pancreatic cancer, prostate cancer. Those are the big ones that we think about. There's other little nuances, but so we're going to spend a little time today really diving deeply into this and deciding, you guys are lucky. You're going to decide, do I need to go and see Mary or Debbie and see if I have a gene change that could make it more likely that I have cancer? Before we find that out, why would we want to know? Well, you know, I've been in this world long enough that I remember when women came to see me and they said, Mary, it's not if I'm going to get cancer, it's when I'm going to get cancer. And I know I'm going to get it, and they live with this dark cloud over them. They're like, my family history is so scary, and so I just know I'm going to get cancer. And when I first started, we really did not have any ways to identify, well, what should we do? So when we look at all of this, if we do find a gene change, or we do find a family history that says you're more at risk, we actually have preventive strategies. So that's the really exciting thing in these families is when you look at family histories and you look at one level, like your grandparents and your aunts and your uncles, and you see that all of these different people had cancer, and then somebody gets tested in the family and we find, you know what, there is a gene change in the family that makes it more likely that you're going to get cancer. And then for women with a risk for breast cancer, let's say, we can start watching the breast tissue more closely. So besides a mammogram, and we might start it earlier, we'll add an MRI, and we can find changes so early in the breast tissue that we basically can prevent cancer. But what's more exciting is when we put those preventive strategies in place, the next generation, we don't see cancer, cancer, cancer. So it's an amazing thing to be able to look at families and really prevent cancer. So this is what it's all about. I'm going to let Debbie tell you a little bit about herself, and then we'll play our really exciting game.
Okay, so Mary did a great job just really spelling out why we do what we do. I am in the surgeon's office, the general surgery office with Dr. Charlo. So we capture a different population. Usually it's men who wouldn't come to see Mary, people who are coming in for colon cancer screenings maybe, but for very similar reasons, to identify those people that are at high risk and get them into the people they need to be in, maybe prevent cancer. And if we can't prevent it, we catch it at its earliest stage, so it's not advanced when people get diagnosed. So, I mean, I don't have a whole lot to add to what you said because you did a great job. But
well, kind of the exciting thing for Debbie is if somebody has a gene change that can increase the risk for colon cancer, they get to have their colonoscopies more often. So we can't promote it, but we can prevent colon cancer. Or detect it really, really early.
And that's why we want to identify those people, and that's why we feel so strongly about genetics. I mean, it absolutely can change patients or families' trajectory in life. So, yep.
Does anybody have any burning questions about genetic testing?
If I add it, and I have one kind of variance. What does a variance mean?
So a variant of uncertain significance. That means that there is a change in a gene, but maybe it's not a gene that's really well established yet. We don't have a whole lot of information to determine how significantly does it increase one's risk of cancer, or does it at all. So then the labs continue to research it, acquire data, then at some point in the future they may reclassify that. That either it's, yeah, we've got enough information now that probably it increases one's risk. Maybe we need to do some medical management with you, meaning increased surveillance, get you into a specialist, something like that. If it gets reclassified as negative, then we just treat it as negative and it doesn't impact your life at all.
Is it significant that me and my sister both had the same one?
Potentially, and that's why the companies kind of keep track of that sort of thing. Now, were you invited to the prompt?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, so that's your registry where people can go online, they can sign up for this and get information about different things like that. Like, oh gosh, I had this variant, has it been reclassified? Is there any new information? Okay. But yeah, it is interesting when we see them in a family. So the companies do watch those, the labs do watch those and see and still continue to acquire data.
Do they contact you if they find something?
So they contact the office. They wouldn't contact you personally. They would contact the office, and if it gets reclassified, we would notify you.
Okay. Thank you.
Really good question.
And a little bit more on that question, we'll go to yours. Just to put your mind at ease just a little bit, 95% of variants are reclassified as benign. So 95% of the time when you get a variant, as we get more data, then it said, you know what, we don't even need to look at this variant anymore. And so that's when we talk to you about genetic testing before you have it, we really kind of say, if you get a variant, we don't want you to worry about it. We will worry about it for you, but 95% of the time, this turns out to be, I don't want to say nothing, but now we know it does not increase the risk of cancer. Yeah. So it is interesting, and it is a really good question. But sometimes that can be a reason like, well, why would I want to know I have something if I just have to worry about it, or if there's nothing I can do about it? But the world of genetic testing, when I started, we looked at BRCA1 and BRCA2. Now we do panels, and it's a really exciting world. What was your question?
What does gene change mean?
Well, that's actually a really good question too. So we're born with our genes, and so something somewhere happened that affected the function of the gene that suppresses proteins. So I say change, but it's something you're born with. So you're either born with, or you either have it or don't have it. So it doesn't change during your lifetime. I think we call it in the world of genetics pathogenic mutation, but that's kind of, I think, a negative way to look at it. Like, oh no, I have a mutation, and there's some, but, and what would you add to that?
So sometimes when I describe it to patients, because it was described to me one time this way, is that it's almost like a recipe. We're all born with a certain recipe, and if you change this recipe in any way, maybe it'll affect with the outcome of what you're making, or maybe it won't. If it is changed so much, the ingredients change so much, that's when we start to see these cancers develop. But sometimes you can have these changes that are not worrisome at all, but it is just a little bit different from the norm. So that's kind of just, in non-medical terms, how I would describe it. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay, okay.
I just couldn't figure out how to change a gene.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, yeah,
If you
they're
had,
born with
if you had this done, do you ever do it again? Or would you ever need to do it again?
Yeah, well, so we do. That's why in my world, and especially it's really nice because we mostly see people once a year for their well women exam. And so, yes, we, like our women that only had BRCA1 and BRCA2, now when they come to see us, we say, you know what? We're going to update your test. And so then we draw a new blood test and it updates and looks at the genes that we didn't know to look at before.
Well, the one that I had like 20 or 30.
Yeah, so you're up to date.
I'm up to date.
You're up.
Yeah, so the only
It's
time we
only
would
been
do
about 5 years
something
ago.
different is if maybe a cancer or a gene that wasn't tested for on that panel, and if new information is obtained, and they're like, okay, now we know this gene is responsible or can increase one's risk, but it wasn't on these panels that we were given, then again, we would do update testing. Okay, so some companies or some providers will have you check in like every 1 to 3 years and say, hey, I had testing done, is there anything new, anything I need to worry about, or my family history has changed, this has happened since we last spoke, does this change anything? So I would encourage you, if you want to do that, just to call the office. And we
I'm
can look
going
up.
in about 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah, okay, okay. So,
Yeah.
Is Medicare paying for this?
Well, we have a program for our women with Medicare, and we actually think the older people in the family are the most informative people in the family. So we do have a company that does give our Medicare patients their testing for free. So if you're a grandma in a family and your side of the family, you're tested and you don't have a harmful gene change that makes it more likely that you could get cancer, your information is good for you, your children, your grandchildren. So what an exciting gift to be able to give to your family. Now, you always, we see women, Debbie sees men, but it's the mom and the dad. So if the grandma, she tests negative, well, that's really good for the grandma side of the family, but we still want to look at the grandpa side of the family.
So to answer your question, we do have labs that do test Medicare patients for free, but if you have cancer or a history of cancer, Medicare will pay for it.
Right.
So that's to answer the
Any
question.
kind of cancer?
We have to meet guidelines.
Yeah. Breast cancer or colon cancer are the big ones in families. Prostate and pancreatic.
Skin cancer, is that
So melanomas, but for skin cancer like basal cell carcinomas, you'd have to have a lot of. I mean, it's not just you have 1 or 2. It would be a pretty significant cancer history.
Thank you, Mary.
Sure.
Mhm.
I know about geosophical cancer in the families.
Esophageal.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let Debbie, this is her area too.
Yeah, so not necessarily just esophageal. Now, there are some GI cancers that maybe were caused from a change, but esophageal alone does not get you to meet criteria.
Because my grandpa and my uncle died the same age, the same thing. And then my dad had the same thing, but this cancer was in a sac and they caught it in time.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think it depends on the type of cancer it was exactly, but just esophageal cancer alone is not considered a genetic cancer.
Oh, okay.
So, and one of the things I like to talk about a little bit is the cost of genetic testing has really come down. So really the most somebody's going to pay for a blood test is $250. I mean, we charge $400 for a vitamin D level, and it's a lot of information, and we learn a lot of new things. And so in these family histories that maybe don't make guidelines, patients also have the option, if they just want to know, to pay the cash price of $250 and say, well, at this point in time, we don't see a gene mutation, because our knowledge is always expanding. It's very interesting to me, and I thought it was pretty forward thinking. Our school system here in the community has an insurance plan that people could opt to have hereditary cancer genetic testing, and Dr. Bosner stepped in, and part of it was also, we're not going to talk about this, it's a new world, but hereditary cardiac genetic testing, and that was part of their insurance plan. So they didn't have to meet any guidelines, and they paid an extra $18 a month to absorb the, I think it was a total of $350 for both tests combined. So there, you know, there are new ways to look at this. We have patients come in that are doing genetic testing for hereditary cancer from online companies that they find, and because this is our area and our area of expertise, we really like to be there to help you through the process, to give you the companies that we know are really valid companies and have really good research behind them. So, but there's a lot of, I mean, this is a big exploding world, so you're going to be exposed to a lot of different ways that you can get this testing done. Did you have a question, Mary?
Yes, so like what you said about Medicare covering, so like if you have a child that has breast cancer, would Medicare maybe?
So we have a company that will run your test because you meet criteria. Yeah, and so Medicare, when it was set up, was not set up to do preventive care. And so that's why if we have a diagnosis, and it can be an old diagnosis. If you were diagnosed with colon cancer 20 years ago and we didn't test people who had colon cancer, now you can come and get the test and it won't cost you anything. So you meet criteria now. And I guess I should always say there's probably a copay for your visit, but the actual test won't cost anything.
And so one other thing that the companies are really good about also is giving you an out-of-pocket cost estimator before they run the test. So either they'll send you a text message or an email. So if it's going to cost you something out of pocket, they're pretty good about trying to contact you before getting anybody into that situation. So it doesn't come from us, because we send the test off, so we're not the one that does it, so it would come from that lab. But they are good about that.
Are you guys ready to play the exciting game?
I just have one question. I know you mentioned Medicare, but there are several people not on Medicare just yet. Are you finding, and I know you mentioned school district, are there more and more local companies and their insurance plans covering genetic testing?
Yes, there
Are you finding more and more?
I
So,
feel like when I'm getting
we have,
yearly with
Christy is from one of our genetic testing companies, and we just had a meeting with her, and 90% of our patients paid zero.
Actually, I think with yours, it was 97% paid $0.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so if you meet criteria, I mean, if you think about it, the insurance companies want to prevent cancer. So it is kind of out of the goodness of their heart, but we're saving them a lot of money. So, I mean, just economically, why not prevent cancer? But from our point of view, yeah, why not prevent the suffering and the fear? Yes, Dr. Fox.
So I would just say one important part of screening, and where Mary and Debbie come in helping us, is a lot of times people think when they have like breast cancer in a family, you just have to worry about the women. Well, you know, a lot of the genetic breast cancers cross over to men, so men have to be screened too, because men can get breast cancer, and people really kind of forget that. But independent of that, like BRCA is classic, it puts people at much higher risk for colon and GI cancers. So like any male still needs to be screened if their sisters or mom has a genetic breast cancer.
It's for prostate cancer,
Right.
for the BRCA gene. So
Right.
the BRCA gene, and possibly pancreatic cancer if it's in the family. So, and Dr. Bosner's exactly right. We used to say BRCA genes were for hereditary breast and ovarian cancer, and now we say hereditary breast, ovarian, prostate, and pancreatic cancer. And so it affects families, men and women.
So the BRCA gene affects the pancreas too?
It can.
Okay.
Yeah. And we look specifically at family history. So if you had a BRCA gene mutation, but you don't have a family history of it, I'm not sure that we would advise screening. But now we actually have screenings we can do to help prevent pancreatic cancer.
changing all the time.
When I come to you for my annual, can I talk to you about that then?
Yes, so what a nice question, Terry. Actually, so the hospital again has been really forward-thinking, and one of the goals of our hospital is that anybody who comes here for a screening mammogram, a well woman exam, or a screening colonoscopy will automatically take the test and do the survey that looks at your family history. And you actually were handed a pamphlet today, and on this pamphlet is a QR code, and I had to learn how to use QR codes, but you take a picture of this and it opens the questionnaire. And when you fill the questionnaire out, Kathy, you have to stand up. Kathy and Andrea here, they organize the data, they keep everything working efficiently. But Kathy looks at this survey and it says, do I qualify for genetic testing, yes or no? If it's yes, Kathy's going to contact you and say, you know, you took this survey and you do qualify to come in for some genetic testing. Would you like to come in? Or Andrea will also contact you. Let's say you don't qualify for genetic testing, but your family history says, we need to watch you more closely for your history of breast cancer. Kathy's going to call you and she's going to say, you know, you took that survey and we've identified that you could benefit from a little bit closer evaluation of your breast tissue. Would you like to come in and see our breast specialist? And then she's going to add the MRI to your mammogram. If you are like me and don't really know how to use the QR code, or it's awkward and you're like, I don't know if I want to do that, you can call Kathy or Andrea and they can send you an email link if you don't want to do an email link.
Or we can just do it over the phone with you.
Yeah, they do it over the phone with you. And so again, the hospital has supported this, and people don't realize the genetic counselors in St. Louis and the genetic counselors in Cape Girardeau, those are the next closest genetic counselors. And you probably are going to wait 3 to 6 months to get an appointment with them. And our goal is that every woman that comes in for a screening mammogram will do this survey. So yes, you'll automatically, Terry, be looked at. Or any man or woman that comes in for a screening colonoscopy, if they have not had this survey done, this survey will be done. So we hope to capture the families in the community that are more at risk for these cancers and then start to prevent them. And we've already begun to do that, and that's been exciting.
It's been really exciting. Lots of changes.
So it's up to you if you want to do your
All right,
bingo.
so now this is everybody excited. Take your bingo cards out.
And you can decide, Mary, do you want the winner of the bingo game to win the attendance prize, or do you want
The winner of the bingo game gets to have a special meeting with Kathy or Andrea, okay? And we can have more than one winner on the bingo game, and then at the end of the
Did everybody get bingo cards?
we're going to have the attendance prize.
What's that for?
This is for our exciting
That's the
bingo.
bingo, so we're gonna call out for stuff that we say will be on that card, okay?
So, oh, some of my stuff is falling out. Okay, so now what you have to do is mark your square if you have this, okay? So if you have a personal history of uterine or the lining of the uterus, endometrial cancer at an age 64 or younger. Okay, Debbie will do the next one.
If you eventually have that card.
Okay, ready?
This is exciting.
So if you have a family history of breast cancer at age 49 or younger, circle that on your card.
Here's a really exciting one. Personal history of more than 10 colon polyps. So, and that's additive. So if you've had a couple colonoscopies and they said, oh, you had 5 one time and 6 the next time, you get to mark that square.
I don't know if I can top that, but I've got a family history of a gene mutation found in a family member.
And it really is interesting. Sometimes we see women and are like, oh yeah, so-and-so has that BRCA mutation in my family. We're like, oh, that's exciting. All right, let's look here. Are we ready for the next one? This is a complicated one. Family history of 2 breast cancers in one relative at any age. So if you were told that your grandma had breast cancer in both her breasts, or your mom had breast cancer in both her breasts, so just one relative who had 2 breast cancers.
Next one is a family history of Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry with breast cancer at any age.
I can see the enthusiasm. I know you can't wait to hear what this one is. Personal history of ovarian cancer at any age.
Personal history of pancreatic cancer at any age.
Bingo. No, I made a mistake. Sorry. Sorry, I got really excited.
Pancreatic cancer at any age.
A family history of rectal or uterine cancer at age 49 or younger.
A family history of ovarian cancer at any age.
Okay, here's another complicated one. I'm going to make you think. A family history of 3 or more breast cancers in relatives on the same side of your family.
Bingo.
Oh, good. Keep going. We're going to keep. Okay, good. We got 2 bingos already. You girls are. This is exciting. So if you had a mom and 2 aunts, or a grandma and 2 aunts on your dad's side of the family, you get to mark that square.
Okay. Family history of colon cancer at age 49 or younger.
Personal history of breast cancer, any age.
Personal history of colon or rectal cancer at any age.
Bingo.
All right, this is exciting. Family history of male breast cancer at any age.
Bingo.
You're going to win the grand prize. Yeah.
3 or 4 so far.
Personal history of metastatic or high-risk prostate cancer
2
at any
bingos.
age.
No, 1 bingo. One.
Okay.
We're down to the last 2. A family history of metastatic prostate cancer at any age. And metastatic means the prostate cancer went out of the prostate and maybe went to somewhere else, the bones or the person. You 2 are winning the grand prize.
Bingo on that one. Boy.
Okay,
Really?
final one, everybody's last chance. Family history of pancreatic cancer at any age.
Bingo.
That's right, I just got
I take this when I go play bingo. I am privileged.
All right, so how many people had 1 square marked on their cards? Raise your hands.
What do you mean 1 square?
At least 1 square, so all you had to do was mark 1 of the squares, not even for a bingo, but you got to cross off 1 of the things we said. So that's what's exciting about our game of bingo. If you had 1 square marked or more, you're a winner. And what are you a winner of? A risk assessment and genetic testing appointment. So you automatically meet criteria to come and see us. Now I know some of you have already had the genetic testing, and so you already won your prize. But and then again, Kathy, stand up, and Andrea. These are our amazing women who work in our offices. We're going to clap for Andrea. She just completed the City of Hope course, and this is the most intense and hard course that I ever took in my professional life. And she's smiling again. But it really is a big accomplishment to have an educated staff, and Kathy has stepped in and learned so much. So we're here to help you, and these women will help get you set up for an appointment. Really, if you have 1 square that you marked on our bingo card, you are a candidate to have genetic testing.
Does the free space count?
Yeah, I know. Free doesn't. A very good question.
And that lady.
I'm going to grab everyone's attendance prize slips if you haven't turned them in.
And while Denise is doing that, the last thing you guys got a smoothie recipe. And so Dr. Kagans has been instrumental in bringing genetic testing and lifestyle medicine to the hospital. But so for women and men, actually there is some really good data that soy can reduce our risk of breast cancer, can reduce the risk of a breast cancer recurrence by about 25%, and can reduce the risk of men's prostate cancer. So we're really looking at ways to get good nutrition into our lives, and we're just kind of trying to move forward and make small changes. But Dr. Christy Funk is the breast cancer specialist and surgeon to the stars. When you hear of any movie star like Angelina Jolie that had breast cancer and has the BRCA gene, she sees Dr. Christy Funk. And she created this smoothie, and it has every antioxidant that would benefit your health in it. And so that's why those ingredients were picked. Our cafeteria really is, our dietary personnel are so on top of it. So the only thing they did say is be sure and look, if you're on a blood thinner, don't add the greens, so you can mix and match it. And there's only one thing that you have to order, and you can order it online, and it's the powder. But again, it's a fruit-based powder. It's not supplements. It's using food to create health. And so you can kind of play around with it, but it's a really fun thing. So, all right, we're ready for the attendance.
All right. I have a question. Is Alice asking
No.
I think, Debbie, you have the certificates underneath your right elbow.
Thank you.
They are for Stella's, and the winner is Terry Sheehan. There you go. Congratulations. Again, thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Next up on the agenda is Dr. Matthew Rosner, and we have Morton Ritter, and they are going to talk about cardiac health, and they will be in here at 11 o'clock.
Could you tell me a little bit about this Women's Festival?
Yes, the Women's Health Fest is an annual event that we have to highlight women's health, and then we like to bring in some fun and activities for the women to enjoy. We have speaker presentations. We have our women's wellness services. That is one of our clinics that's here to help women with some of the healthcare questions they may have and things that they'd like to know when it comes to their health. We want women to be healthy. We feature lots of things. We have the vendors that support things. We have other services that we feature. One of them is good nutrition. We want to make sure they eat healthy, and that's why we have our Garden of Health. So there's so much going on, so much to see. We talk about cardiac care. We talk about lots of different things in the healthcare arena, and because we want the women of this community to be healthy, and then we try to offer them some fun things. There'll be some massages going on. We have Prism Hair here, who they are doing hair, and we have flowers. We have so many things for the women to enjoy, and it's all mostly free.